Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. I'm your host, Old Man Nate, and today I'm going to release my Week 5 college football top 25. So before we get started, if you haven't already, please take the time right now to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you get notified every time Old Man Nate drops a video or goes live. Also, at the end of this show, roll on over to oldmancoffee.shop where you can get yourself some coffee. We have 47 different flavors to choose from. You can also help support Old Man Nate with a tumbler. We have a few colors to choose from and a couple different sizes, where you can get you a T-shirt. All right, so support Old Man Nate with it by buying a tumbler or a T-shirt. And if you buy either two tumblers, either or two T-shirts, or one tumbler and one T-shirt, you will get a 12-ounce bag of coffee for free. So, like I said, this is week 5, Old Man Nate's week 5 top 25. The dropping out from last week at number 19 was Clemson. Clemson was ranked number 19 last week. They dropped out of my top 25. They lost to Florida State this past weekend at home, by the way. And then also we had at number 24 was Colorado, who got thumped by Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. And then falling out. Also, I had them ranked number 13 last week. I said it was way too high. And at the end of the day, I dropped them all the way out of the top 25, and that is the Tennessee Volunteers. Those are the only three we had drop out. We only had two teams jump in. And speaking of jumping in, let's jump into our top 25. We'll start off right here at 25 is the Syracuse Orangemen. Syracuse is 4-0. They haven't played really anybody tough, but I do feel like they've earned the number 25 place ranking in the nation. But they are going to get tested this weekend by a team that just dropped out of the top 25 as they host Clemson this weekend. So that should be a good matchup. I do think. So the last few matches, probably the last, I haven't went back and seen exactly how many, but it seems like at least the last 8 years, that matchup has been close, even when Clemson has been dominant. Clemson has went in there to Syracuse and lost. I remember that. Then another time, like either the next year or the year after, they barely escaped with a win. So Syracuse has been a thorn in Clemson's side. Now Clemson's got a chance to repay because Clemson already got two losses. They're not playing for a national championship this year. They the conference championship. So it's a big game for Clemson. I think it'll be a good game, and looking forward to that one this weekend. The next team we got up here at number 24 is the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky's another team that's 4-0. To me, they haven't been as impressive as some of the other talking heads making them out to be, but they got to really test this weekend as Kentucky is going to play. Where's that? I've got it wrote down over here. Oh, they play Florida. That's right. They're going to play the Florida Gators. Florida's, beat Tennessee a couple weeks ago. So we'll see how that. I think that's going to be a really good matchup. Also, we'll see who steals the show on that one. And speaking of Florida, I've got them ranked number 23. So 23 and 24 are going to play each other. In fact, to be honest with you, I had Tennessee here, but I was like, how I didn't have Florida ranked. So I was like, how can I justify putting Tennessee here and Florida not being ranked? So I moved them out or replaced Tennessee with Florida. They earned that right by beating Tennessee. So This should be a good match. Um, I know right now Kentucky's favored, but I would not be surprised at all if Florida walks away with the win on this one. At 22, we got the Oregon State Beavers. Oregon State, I told you, I said, all my shows last week, I was looking forward to a matchup last week between Oregon State and Washington State. It was a great game. Washington State, though, ended up controlling it, and Oregon State made a late rally. And if you just look at the score, you think, oh, it was a great game, or Oregon State made a game out of it. It was, I mean, they had to score 21 points in the fourth quarter to make it a close game. But yeah, at 22, I've got the Oregon State Beavers. At 21, coming off a loss last week to Alabama, is the Ole Miss Rebels. I thought Ole Miss was going to upset Alabama. Alabama was a favorite. I thought they were going to go into Titletown and upset them, and they didn't do it. They was up at halftime 7-6. The second half all belonged to Alabama. Ole Miss just couldn't do anything offensively, and their defense couldn't shut down Alabama. I believe, scored 17 points in the second half or 14 points in the second half to win the game. Great job by Alabama, though. Very impressed with how they bounced back after struggling the 2 weeks prior. The next team we're going to talk about at number 20 is Washington State. Washington State, who I just mentioned, beat Oregon State last weekend. Both teams were ranked. Both teams are still ranked. But Washington State won that matchup. Washington State this week is off and don't have a game. So they'll sit home, rest up, and next week they'll give it a go, see if they can move up anymore between their next game. At the next team we're going to talk about here at number 19 is the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas, they opened Big 12 play with a win, and they introduced new Big 12 team BYU to the Big 12 by beating them by double digits. But now they got a real test as they're going to head down to Austin, Texas to take on the Texas Longhorns. Remember 2 years ago, Kansas went into Texas as a big underdog and pulled the upset, beating the Longhorns 57-56 in overtime as they went for two and got it to third string tight end at the time, who's now one of their main tight ends. I don't remember his name, but I remember the story. And great job by Kansas. That started their momentum to where they are today. 4-0 for for 2 years in a row. They've been 4 in a row. I don't know when the last time Kansas went 2 years in a row at 4-0. So let's see if they can make it 5-0. The next team at number 18, we got the Alabama Crimson Tide. As like I said earlier, they bounced back against Ole Miss. Looked really good. Offense is still struggling. Defense looked really good, though, unlike it did against Texas or even South Florida. But they bounced back, and this weekend, Alabama has got Mississippi State. I don't think this will be a problem for Mississippi or for Alabama. I think Alabama beats Mississippi State pretty easily. The next team we got here at 17 is going to be Louisville. Not enough people are talking about Louisville. Louisville is going to play Friday night at NC State. That will be a good game. NC State played last Friday also. I thought they would win pretty easily. I forget they played, but they struggled in a win. I think Louisville goes in to Raleigh, North Carolina, and puts a whooping on NC State this weekend. So at number 16, we have the Miami Hurricanes. So Miami is 4-0. You know, they did, you know, they looked really good against Texas A&M. They they haven't really played anybody tough since then. They don't play anybody this weekend, so this is their weekend to rest up, and then they're going to get heavy into the ACC games, and they're going to be tested. So enjoy your rest, Miami, because the schedule is about to get rough for you. At number 15, we have the Duke Blue Devils. Duke has, most people are really surprised by Duke. I was not. If you look at my back at my preseason show, I had Duke predicted to finish third in the conference. In fact, really tied for second, but was going to lose the head-to-head with North Carolina. So I think this is going to be a great game this weekend. Duke has to play Notre Dame. Notre Dame's coming off of that really tough loss to Ohio State. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think Notre Dame is going to be coming for Duke. But I think Duke is got something for them. They're going to stand there, and they're not just going to push over and let Duke or Notre Dame run over them. I think it's another great game for Notre Dame this weekend, playing Duke. But I think the Duke has a really good chance to pull the upset in this one also. Even though it's at Duke, a lot of people are picking Notre Dame to win that one. We'll see. We'll see what happens in it. At number 14, the LSU Tigers. The LSU Tigers have looked really good since their week 1 loss to Florida State. They did, had to kick a last-second field goal to beat Arkansas, which most people would think, oh man, should have won that easily. Well, here's the thing: LSU and Arkansas are rivals, just like Alabama and Auburn are rivals, just like OU and Texas are rivals, just like Michigan and Ohio State are rivals. So, if your rival's going to play you tough, no matter how good you are or they are, it's going to be a tough game. In fact, just a little history: the last 5 matchups between LSU and Arkansas have ended by a field goal or less. And that includes, if you do your math, the 2019 matchup with LSU, when LSU was dominant over everybody and walked away with that national championship. So, yeah, it tells you what type of game this is. And LSU gets credit from me for winning that game, as they are now ranked, in my poll, they're ranked 14th in the country. The next team we're going to talk about here is North Carolina. North Carolina with Drake May has been pretty impressive. Not great at times, but they are winning. Their defense still is better than it was last year, but still needs improvement in order for them, I think, to make it through the season unscathed. But North Carolina is my team at number 13, and this week they are off, getting ready for some big games coming up in the ACC. The next team we're going to talk about here, I know people are going to laugh at me saying, what the hell are you talking about? But the next team for me is a USC Trojans. And here's why: their defense. Okay? Their defense. Until they improve their defense, they are not going to be a top 5 team for me. Unless everybody else is losing in the country and they're still winning. Then, we'll put them up there. But you got to be able to stop some teams. And they struggled to win this past weekend against Arizona State. And Arizona State is not a good football team. USC ended up winning by 14. That's because they scored a late touchdown to make it a 14-point game. It was a 1-possession game until that last touchdown. So USC's got to get better defensively. This weekend, they go into Boulder, Colorado, who is mad about their butt whooping they got from Oregon. It's a 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 9 a.m. Pacific Time. So that will be a challenge for USC. They're used to playing these late night games. Their last 2, I know, maybe 3 games have been 9 o'clock in Central, so that's 8 o'clock Pacific. I'm sorry, that's 7 o'clock Pacific. And now you're going to turn around and play at, um, 9 a.m. Pacific. That's going to be a challenge for them right there on the road too at Boulder, Colorado. The media is going to be there because the media has been everywhere that Dion and Colorado have been this year. But I do think USC wins the game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game because neither one of these teams can play defense. I will say USC's defense is better than Colorado's, but I think it's going to be a shootout, kind of like it was last week for them. And I tell you what, if they get a couple of turnovers, Cardinals get turnovers, there could be an upset. But I do think USC does win the game. Next team we're going to talk about is the Oklahoma Sooners. Okay, Oklahoma offensively, most people think they have struggled, and they just only scored 20 points against Cincinnati, but they scored 20 points and won. When was the last time an Oklahoma Sooners team scored 20 points and not only won, but won by double digits? Okay, their defense has been very, very impressive this year. In 16 quarters of play, 14 of those quarters they have not allowed a touchdown. Okay, so in fact, Tulsa scored 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago, and then SMU scored a touchdown. Okay, in the third or fourth, I think it was the third quarter. It was the third quarter of that game. So only 2 quarters anybody scored a touchdown on them. They're playing this week. They've got Iowa State, who's not very good offensively, normally pretty good defensively. So you might see the Sooners offense struggle again this weekend, but I do think they can still manage to win the game by double digits. Number 10, at the 10th ranked team in the country. Before we get any further though, if you haven't already, please take the time right now to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you get notified every single time that Old Man Nate drops a video or goes live. Also, leave some comments. Tell me what you think of Old Man Nate's top 25. Tell me who you would have in certain ranking positions or whatever. Tell me I'm a fool. I don't care. Just leave some comments, all right? And so moving on from there, at number 9, we have the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, like I said earlier, put a whooping on the Colorado Buffaloes and really what was expected all across the country. This weekend, Oregon, let's see here. I don't see Oregon on here. Oh, there they are. So Oregon is going to travel to Stanford this weekend. They shouldn't have a problem with that. Stanford has been playing better offensively the last couple of weeks, but I don't think it'll be a shootout game. I think Oregon's defense is good enough to slow down Stanford. But yeah, Oregon is going to travel to Stanford. The next, the next team we're going to talk about here at number 8 is another Pac-12 team in the Utah Utes. Utah won last week 14-7, and really was a very defensive game. I believe Utah picked off UCLA's first pass of the game, ran it back for a pick 6, and after that only scored 7 points the rest of the game to win 14-7. So without Cam Rising, Utah is struggling offensively. They have got to get him back. I don't know how close they are to getting him back. They've been saying really since week 1 against Florida, or actually it was week 0, but still since their first game. No, it was week 1. I take it back. It was week 1. Everybody been saying, oh, he'll be back next week. Well, here we are heading into week 5, and he's still not back. I don't know if he's going to play or not. I hope he does get a chance to play. Utah needs him to compete for the conference championship. So we'll see. We'll see if he comes back. The next team we're going to talk about here is the Texas Longhorns. At number 8, we have the Texas Longhorns. And here we go. We're talking about last week they managed to they did what they had to do against Baylor. If you remember, I dropped them last week. In fact, they were 11th last week. They're 8th. I'm moving them to 8th this week because they did what they were supposed to do, and that is go into Baylor and manhandle them like you're supposed to. They jumped out on them early, and they won easily. So, um, congratulations to Texas for doing what they're supposed to do. You moved up in my poll. This week is another test against the Kansas Jayhawks, who I talked about earlier, who has been known to come into Austin and pull the upset. Um, here's the thing. Really hope they win this. Really hope Texas wins this weekend. And I hope OU wins this weekend. Because if so, I got a question for everybody that is going to blow your mind when you find the answer out. Okay, but it is about the OU Texas game. Can't release it yet because it depends on winnings by OU and Texas this weekend. So at next team we're going to talk about here, or at number 8, I got the Texas Longhorns. Next team we got here is coming off of a loss is Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 7. And here's the thing. Notre Dame had that game won. They dominated the second half by just running the ball and then shutting Ohio State down offensively. You take away one run, which was a 61-yard run by Ohio State in the second half, and not only does Notre Dame not have to worry about the last seconds of the game, but they hold Ohio State to under 100 yards rushing. Ohio State only had like 140 yards rushing, and that 161 yards put them over it. So they was able to, for the most part, stop Ohio State rushing. They was able to run the ball. They had almost 100 yards more total yards than Ohio State. So they should have won the game. But they made really two fatal errors there on the last drive. Number one, I never understand this to begin with. Why do teams go to prevent defense? To prevent defense should only be for like Hail Marys. Other than that, you don't want to do that because you're giving them an opportunity to complete passes to gain 20, 25 yards a pop. And that's what they did. Two out of their last 3 plays, they gave the game to Ohio State. You know, the 30-yard pass down to the 1-yard line, prevent defense. Then the second play, Ohio State tries a sprint right with a quarterback throw to the receiver, and he missed it. It wasn't really a catchable ball. And then the next play, both on that play I just mentioned and this next play, Notre Dame only had 10 players on the field. Ohio State caught it. They audibled into a run play to where there was only 2 defenders at. There should have been another defender. He barely got in the end zone with 2 guys. I mean, they had the corner come up also and the safety, but they're too far back. And the corner was too far from the side. He's not going to be able to tackle a big running back. You got to hit him head on. And if they would have been able to hit him head on, I think they stop Ohio State. And Ohio State walks out of Notre Dame with a loss. But, you didn't close the deal. You can blame it on the coach right there you see in the background. You can blame it on the players, whatever. At the end of the day, Notre Dame took the loss. Notre Dame dropped. They dropped 5 spots. Remember, I had them ranked number 2 last week. They dropped 5 spots to number 7. The next team we're going to talk about here at number 6 is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They went to Notre Dame and won, so they deserve to be ranked higher than Notre Dame. So, congratulations, Ohio State. You did what you had to do to win the game. So, your offense still suspect to me, running and throwing the ball. You're gonna have to get better. You're not gonna be able to beat Penn State and Michigan like that. I believe you play Wisconsin also. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. Wisconsin, I don't have ranked in my top 25, but They could be. They're like right there on the outside. Matter of fact, I'll name my outside looking in here in just a little bit, as I've got those listed over here. But um, yeah, at number 6 we have the Ohio State Buckeyes. At number 5, finally reaching my top 5, is the Georgia Bulldogs. All right, they finally put, I call it, a complete game together. Okay, they jumped out on a team that's not very good, and they finally did that though. They haven't done it all season. That's why I told you guys, when they start doing that, then I'll put them on top 5. But I still don't feel like they're a top 5 team, or I don't feel like they're a playoff team right now, let alone number 1 team in the country. I think all 4 of these teams that I mentioned, who are also undefeated, are better than Georgia right now. If they had to play, I would pick them against Georgia to win. At number 4, we have Florida State Seminoles. Florida State probably has the best wins of the season, because they don't have just one; they got 2. They got they went on the road, or I'm sorry, they at home they beat the LSU Tigers, and then they went on the road to Clemson this past weekend and win. So they don't play this weekend. They got an idle game. Next weekend they'll get back after it. But yeah. Oh, by the way, Georgia goes to Auburn. Auburn not very good though, but it's the oldest rivalry in the South. So Auburn might give them a game. I don't know. Auburn's offense is not very good. So it would be shocking to me if they could go in there and pull an upset, or they can pull an upset over Georgia. But back to Florida State. Florida State idle this week. Next week they'll get back at it with ACC play. Get some rest at Florida State. You're going to need it on that number 4 spot. The next team we're going to talk about here is at number 3 is the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan is 4-0. They, played Rutgers. Rutgers gave them a good fight at the beginning. In fact, Rutgers up at least 7-0 before Michigan rolled off like the next 30 points. But it took them a while. They didn't just bounce right back. Rutgers gave them a game for at least the first quarter, maybe the first half, and then Michigan finally took over. But Michigan this week has to go to Nebraska. I think Michigan's a way better football team than Nebraska this year, but I think Nebraska's defense is really good. So I think this will be a low-scoring game. I can definitely see Nebraska slowing Michigan down. It's not going to be hard to stop Nebraska. Nebraska, as long as they got that same quarterback in, then they're not going to score. They can't throw the ball. The running game is not good enough. So they got to be balanced this day and age. So, yeah, I think Michigan wins at Nebraska. Is that Nebraska, right? Yeah, at Nebraska. Pretty easily, but probably does not cover the spread. At number 2, we got Penn State. Penn State, they are at Northwestern this week. Last week, I don't remember who they played last week. They played Iowa. Oh yeah, they won 31-0 against Iowa, and it was a home game. Penn State's defense is really good. I believe they're ranked number 1 in the country at defensive points allowed, with like 5 points a game. So great job, Penn State. Keep it up. I picked y'all to win the Big Ten before the season started. So keep doing what you're doing. You're going to make me look good. The next team, and the only team we have remaining at number 1, is, for the second week in a row, the Washington Huskies. Washington, last week, they I don't remember who they're playing or who they played. This week they got Arizona. Oh yeah, okay. Washington played California last week. California scored a lot more points than I thought they would, but Washington didn't have no problem scoring points. I think it'd be, I think Washington will definitely have no problem scoring points on Arizona. Arizona, I think, will probably not score as many as California did on them. So I think Washington wins probably by, 30, probably. But yeah, I mean, it's a home game for Washington. So yeah, them Huskies should be able to rout Arizona and maintain that number one spot. To me, they've been the most complete team in the country this year, offensively and defensively. So that's why they have the number one ranking for me. The next five in are Tennessee at 3-1, Missouri at 4-0, Kansas State at 3-1, Maryland at 4-0, and Wisconsin at 3-1. So the anybody lose this past next weekend, um, liable to fall out and somebody else take your place. So anyway, there's Old Man Nate's college football week 5 top 25. If you haven't already, please take the time to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you get notified every time Old Man Nate drops a video. Also, right now, go to oldmancoffee.shop and get you some coffee. We have 47 different flavors to choose from. You can also get you a tumbler. We have a few colors and a couple different sizes to choose from, or get you a t-shirt. You can support Old Man Nate by getting a t-shirt. You can by getting a t-shirt that or getting a tumbler. We also got specials going on right now. You buy 2 tumblers or 2 t-shirts or 1 tumbler and 1 t-shirt and get you a 12-ounce bag of coffee to drink or 12-ounce bag of coffee you can put in your tumbler and try out the coffee. Appreciate you guys watching the show. Also, leave some comments. Tell me what you think of Old Man Nate's top 25. Tell me it's trash. Tell me you love it. I don't care. Give me your opinions. I love your feedback. I respond to every single one of you. I appreciate all the love you show me, and we'll see you next time right here on Old Man Sports Talk.